I love the flavor.
That's spot on.
I love that.
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder, saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. Do you see any graphs or studies here? Nope. Then nothing I say is absolute fact. I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't have a single clue what Delicious in Dungeon even was when a friend first recommended it to me. Based on the way it was described, it sounded like Monster Hunter, except in an enclosed dungeon instead of out in the wild. And there was another indie game that I heard of that had the exact same premise, but I can't seem to find that game anywhere, so oh well, it doesn't get a shout out. Anyway, Delicious in Dungeon is a pretty basic setup. A party of 6 is facing a red dragon deep within the dungeon. Due to the long journey, they ran out of rations and were too tired to put up a decent fight. Right as they were about to all perish, a spellcaster, Fallen, teleports everyone out of there as she's killed and eaten. With 2 of the party members leaving the group, the 3 remaining members must dive back into that dungeon to save and rescue their friend. Or in the leader Lawas' case, his sister, because apparently adventurers have access to magic which can resurrect them, meaning death isn't that big of a deal in this series. This leads to the only negative I could really find with the show and the manga. There is absolutely zero tension. I had no doubts that the party would achieve every one of their goals. But this is obviously intentional because Delicious in Dungeon is not an intense experience. It is a relaxing series meant to entertain with the nerdy fantasy lore and mouth-watering depictions of food. It's just that I never feel a need to watch more than one episode or read more than one chapter at any given moment because I know things will be fine while I'm away.
It'll be fine. It'll be good.
Because the party has no money, they decide to gather their food and water within the dungeon itself because apparently the majority of the monsters are actually edible. They're quickly found by a dwarf chef named Senshi who agrees to help them and teach them how to use the dungeon as a way of life instead of just a source of income. With the elven sorceress Marcel and the thief halfling Chilchunk, the group of 4 dive through the dungeon, slaying monsters, avoiding traps, making the most of their situation, and lots of cooking and eating. That has to be the most interesting aspect of the entire series, seeing how the party uses commonly known monsters, magical plants, and common ingredients to make delicious meals. And boy does the food look good. I kid you not, I cannot enjoy Delicious in Dungeon without getting hungry. Even if I just ate, my mouth starts to water when I see the meals. It is the ultimate food and cooking fan service that I have ever seen. Granted, cooking anime isn't exactly my thing. I know that Food Wars exists, but I've never actually tried that series. And by doing a simple Google search, I remember that Toriko was also a thing, but I never got into that one. And there are a lot more, but that's just not my thing. Maybe those other series do the food fan service better and the regular fan service along with it, if you know what I mean. But that's where Delicious in Dungeon actually caught my attention. Without a doubt, this series is one of the biggest love letters to fantasy that I have ever seen.
Hello? I love you.
I spotted references to Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, Harry Potter, and many others. And I heard rumors and reports that the creator took a hiatus to play Baldur's Gate 3, which, mad respect, girl, you do you. That fact made me love the series even more. It's the love and care for the fantasy genre itself that really pops out to me. Just as much as storytelling is about consistency, logic, and rules, it's also about the feelings, themes, and intangibles. Top tier writing is when the science and artistic aspects of storytelling come together to make something great. It's an intangible that can only come through raw passion and love of what you're doing. And the creator, and forgive me if I get this wrong, Ryoko Kyoi does this perfectly. Now, Delicious in Dungeon is definitely not for everyone, with it being a relaxing series without any real tension. The manga and anime rely on you being interested in the lore, world building, food fan service, and wacky humor more than anything else. part of the fun I had is comparing the monster food with real life meals, and by seeing all of the different influences from other fantasy series in this world. It's a good, relaxing time with low stress and a bunch of nerdy fan service, in comparison to the regular fan service, which is non-existent in this series. Not going to lie, this makes Delicious in Dungeon good for a plane ride at least, which is a bonus because I don't need someone making a scene because there is a little bit of flesh with the intense violence and gore. Remember people, guns, bombs, and blood are all good, but a little bit of nudity is bad. I honestly don't care that much, I just think double standards are hilarious.
That back there is not real!
While I do like the characters, they seem a little bit more subdued than I would have expected. The most outrageous people, Senshi and Leois, aren't as cartoony as one might expect. With the dwarf I have met, Foodies, he is not that strange in that community, and Leois is a bit of a stand-in for the audience's interest for the monsters, lore, and food. Meanwhile, Marcel is the opposite, often being grossed out by the food. And Chilchuck, I swear I've had to do 20 takes for this name alone, being the most professional of the group. But I will say that they feel like real good people going about their lives in a magical world. Maybe there's a lot of growth later down the line, but it feels very much like a slice of life story, which is good because that's obviously what the series is going for. Delicious in Dungeon is very, very good. Perhaps even great. The creator wrote the story that she wanted to make, that she's passionate about, and it shows. But I won't lie to you and say that it isn't kind of niche, a combination of food and fantasy fan service to the highest of degrees. I can't recommend the series to just anyone because they'll feel the lack of tension and the foodie stuff and the fantasy nerdish and just zone out if they don't have the right mindset or interest in this series. Even my wife, who is a giant fantasy nerd, isn't that into it because of the lack of tension. But she's not into slice of life stories, so what are you gonna do? But you know what? I'd eat the monster food. It would make me feel a lot better than what I eat now. Cows, pigs, chickens, literally the cutest animals in existence. So we decided to cut their heads off and feast upon their flesh. Eating constantly respawn. But you know what? I'd prefer to eat the monster food. It would make me feel a lot better than what I eat now. Cows, pigs, chickens, literally the cutest animals in existence, which is why we decided to cut their heads off and feast upon their flesh. Eating constantly respawning hideous monsters sounds a lot more palatable to me. I have thought about going vegetarian a few times, but I honestly don't have the budget, willpower, and creativity to make it a viable option. So bring on the monsters. What do you know? A fantasy world I'd actually like to live on. Isn't that rare and refreshing? You're welcome to disagree with me. That's fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
I couldn't eat another bite. Well, maybe one more bite.
Hey, do you like stories about an interconnected world? Then consider giving my LPCO books a try. They are all connected in some way, but you can jump in at any point, unless it's a series. Then you have to start at the beginning. But I got 3 books out right now and 3 coming next year. You will not have to wait long for content. Either way, thank you. I appreciate you. Do not despair.